Lawyers of Reddit, what was the best gotcha moment you ever experienced? I acted for a plumber who ripped up a tile floor to replace a pipe. He installed new tile on top, but warned the owners not to walk on it for 48 hours. He emphasized not to let their kids or their dogs walk on it either. They walked on it, but alleged the defects were caused by improper install. We had an expert do a report which confirmed that it was consistent with proper installation, but people walking on it too soon. Crazy homeowners still went to trial on it. In their evidence disclosure, they included a series of pictures. One of the pictures had in the foreground a tile that was tilted upwards. The background very clearly showed a dog's paw pressing down on the other end of the tile. That wasn't so much an I got them situation as they got themselves. I had client whose $60K car was ruined by a shop that put in the wrong oil. We couldn't prove it at first, the engine blew up, oil leaked out, and evidence was lost. I subpoenaed their bank records, figured out they bought their oil from Costco. Called Costco and got to their prices for the last 2 years. I then worked out the amounts they were spending, did some backhand math, and showed based on the values it was impossible they had ever bought the right oil. They settled in full immediately. You gotta admit, it is the most satisfying thing when the opposition caves in immediately when you prove what they are saying is impossible. Told this story a few years back, but everything old is new again. My brother is a divorce attorney. His most memorable case, he was representing a guy in a divorce custody battle who was accused of horrific child abuse. Very graphic, very detailed depositions from the young kids against daddy. Things look grim. Then my brother notices the deposition transcript, done by social workers under oath, contains a question at the end from one of the kids, "Did I hit my marks?" My brother had previously tried to make it as an actor in Hollywood right out of high school, failing miserably, and decided to go into law, an altogether different form of acting. He wonders how little kids know about acting jargon. Subpoenas the wife's personal checking account during discovery, sure enough, acting lessons. Deposes an extremely sketchy acting coach, and panicked coach quickly coughs up DVDs of practice interrogations with the kids, hours of coaching the kids on exactly what imaginary things to say about daddy. He says it was his one and only Perry Mason moment in 20+ years of practice, and dad got sole custody of the kids. Had a client accused of leading the cops on a high-speed chase. The cop on the stand estimated he was going 90 miles per hour, but never actually clocked him. Then the cop identified where the chase started with me and where it ended. It lasted about 2 miles. Then we went through his log of when it started and when it ended. About 3.5 minutes. Once you walk through the math on that, the average speed of this chase was 35 miles per hour. Client got acquitted really quickly after that. When that math problem in 6th grade about how fast a car was going depending on its speed and distance traveled actually matters. Edit. Thanks for silver. I was suing a landlord who failed to make serious repairs in order to force the tenant out. The hard part is proving bad intent instead of mere idiocy, so you get higher damages. Code enforcement was involved, so I request those records. The landlord left a voicemail to the enforcement department saying to hold off on the fines, they will make the repairs as soon as the tenant is forced out. That was an easy case. Some crap like this happened to my dad. Landlord refused to make repairs, washer was busted, garbage disposal was leaking and forced floorboards to warp. My dad moved and wanted his deposit. They wouldn't give it to him. He took them to court. He took pictures before he left and kept all texts from them. They walked themselves into a corner with everything they said. My dad was prepared for every claim. Eventually the judge told my dad he could fight it until the end and get his whole deposit, or the landlord could give most of it now, and it would be over. He took the deal because he didn't have the time for court, and the look of anger and defeat on the landlord's face was too satisfying. It's 3 years later and the repairs still haven't been made in the apartment. Edit. Spelling. Also, he heard about the lack of repairs from his old neighbor who still lives there. Oh man, here's another one. I had a DUI case that seemed pretty standard. Police reports said that they saw a car with a headlight out leaving a BWW parking lot. He stopped him. The guy failed roadsides and blew a .09. I have a meeting with the kid to get his side of the story. My client was drinking in a BWW watching some MMA fight, so it was super packed. Sometimes for events like this, police officers hang out inside to make sure no one gets in fights, steals shit, etc. Anyway. My client was flirting with the bartender and she asked him to go home with her when she got off. He, being a man of about 25, says yes. She says she'll drive him and he tells her okay, but that he had to grab his cell phone charger out of his car. He walks out of BWW to do so and the cop followed him out. It was pouring, so instead of just opening his door and reaching for his charger, client gets in the car to rummage through his glove box for it. When he steps out, the cop is standing there and demands for him to do roadsides, then hits him with DUI. We set for trial. At the motions hearing, I asked the cop if he'd followed my client out of BWW. He said no, that he'd been patrolling in his car. He said he had no idea who was in the car when he approached it. He swore the car was on. So at trial, I let him tell his story. I made him confirm to the jury that he was in his car doing routine patrol. He was never inside BWW. He didn't follow my client to his car to entrap him into a DUI. Then I played the video from inside BWW clearly showing the cop watch my client get up from the bar and follow him out. Not fucking guilty. Edit. Wow. So this blew up. I'm gonna answer a couple. Fact 1. I showed the prosecutor the video morning of trial. There were a few cops in and out of BWW throughout the day. He said the quality wasn't good enough to prove it was the same cop. He argued this to the jury. Obviously, the jury didn't buy that shit. 2. The cop didn't see the video. I had to authenticate it through the guy from BWW who gave it to me, so it played after the cop had already left the stand. I basically just made him reconfirm his statement and let him go. Then argued in closing that he's a lying liar. 3. The cops at least let my client leave his car in the lot, so he just went and got it in the morning. They took him to jail to do the breath test and because it was his first, they didn't book him. The bartender came and picked him up from jail. They fucked. She confirmed his side of the story. I was representing mom in a bitter custody fight. Dad wanted full custody and argued mom was an unfit parent. Mom wanted full custody because dad had a history of domestic violence towards her and the kids. Dad's lawyer was doing a good job of painting her in a bad light during his cross-examination, and I was starting to get worried. His lawyer brought a close family friend as a character witness for dad, who said the usual nice things about dad. Then he said something about the moaning chickens. I thought that was odd, so I asked more questions. I was able to get the friend to spill the beans that the dad owned chickens for illegal cockfighting, and he'd take his minor children to these cockfights, and when the children were acting up, he'd punish them by forcing them to feed the chickens, during which they would get pecked and scratched by the chickens. And obviously, the children were terrified of those chickens. I could see the color draining from dad's lawyer's face. Mom got full custody. My client's wife was on the phone with her new boyfriend when he got home from a BBQ with their son. He asked her who she was on the phone with, and she freaked out and ran to the bedroom and locked herself inside. She told new BF that he'd hit her, that she was black and blue, etc. New BF is, understandably I guess, freaked out. He calls the cops and relays everything wifey said to him. Then he tells her he called the cops. She freaks out even more because now she's about to be caught in the lie. Cops show up, she tells them he hit her on the back of the head, that's why they can't see the mark. The cops feel the back of the head, and she winces, lol. They arrest my dude. We take it to trial. When you testify at trial, certain prior convictions can be used against you to show the jury your character. Wifey had a prior conviction for falsifying statements to a grand jury in a different state a few years ago. In cross-exam, after she changed her story up and accused me of attacking her, I asked her about her prior conviction for lying to a jury. She lied about it to our jury. She said it didn't happen. I very calmly approached her with the certified record of her conviction and asked her to confirm it was her name, date of birth, then walked back to my stand and asked the same question. She refused to answer this time, just glared at me. The jury walked my client. Edit. 1 point of confusion. Wifey was playing victim on the stand, and the bulk of my cross was bringing her attention to holes in her story. She accused me of verbally attacking her, bullying her. Not physically attacking her. Someone said this story must be fake because I forgot which role I was playing, lol, so I thought I'd clear it up. Someone told me this. The lawyer was describing the theft. The footprints make it seem as though he didn't go to the basement, and the defendant said, "Actually, we did." I think it was a Judge Judy clip where the woman is listing a number of items stolen from her by an ex-boyfriend. Jewelry, credit cards, electronics, and a certain amount of money. There wasn't X dollars cash in there, immediately followed by that sigh judges do when people are that dumb. Done. Like, comment, and share. Reddit Story Topper. Subscribe now.